Hi, my name is Pete Scales. I'm from the University of Derby. If you're watching this, you're probably taking our Postgraduate Certificate in Higher Education programme. If not, you're welcome anyway. This brief presentation is to get you thinking about learning, and particularly about learning in higher education. The other week, the Education Guardian published an article which carried the headline, and I'm quoting here, "Government policy aims to switch the focus of higher education towards learning and teaching." This is interesting really, because I suppose many people would have thought that learning and teaching is what universities are all about. It's the reason for their existence. It's quite common for academics to talk about their university as either a university for teaching or a research university. In either way, the outcome is the same. It's about learning. So the next question is, what do we mean by learning? You might want to take a little break here and just have a think about this. So what I'd like you to do is to think about, can you come up with a sort of succinct, brief definition of what learning is all about? Welcome back. In your definitions of learning, you may have come up with a range of words, such as memorizing, understanding, and changing. Most definitions of learning include the word change. This may be change in terms of, for example, the acquisition of skills and knowledge, or it may be change to do with becoming a different person. For example, it's a bit like an engineering student who knows a lot about engineering, as opposed to an engineering student who thinks like an engineer, who is able to cope with thinking and changing and developing throughout his or her working life, even if they don't become engineers. So, to put it briefly, or to oversimplify things, there's sort of two models we might think of. The first one we could call the transmission model, or as I prefer to call it, the content shifting module, or indeed model. In this model, the idea is for the lecturer to transfer content to passive students. The other model I would prefer to call the transformation model, or we could say learning model. Clearly, transmission is part of this, but it's also more about becoming a different person. It's about the student, in a way, learning how to learn. It's about the student being more active in the construction of knowledge and their development and their understanding. So in a way, it's what we might call deep learning, and this is something that we'll refer to later. Really, this is summed up by Paul Ramsden in his book, Learning to Teach in Higher Education. And one of the things he says, and if I remember the quote correctly, is that the purpose of teaching is quite simple. It's to bring about student learning. And I suppose in much the same way as you could say that the only purpose of selling is to bring about buying, the only purpose of teaching, and indeed research, is to bring about learning. Ramsden later goes on to say, and I think the quote goes something like, that if we want to become better teachers, we need to inquire into our own practice. We need to find out about students and how they learn. So that notion of inquiry is really important, because it's the heart of what we're doing on this programme. I think it's important because it reminds us that teachers are what we might refer to as dual professionals. So for example, they are people who inquire not only into the discipline, the subject of their particular teaching, but also into teaching and learning. They are interested in the scholarship of teaching and learning. So I think we could say in essence that inquiry, together with change and action, is the basis of the the Postgraduate Certificate in Higher Education at the University of Derby. In subsequent videos, we're going to be exploring more about learning, and particularly, for example, about deep learning. Good luck with your programme and see you in future videos.